Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Boardmasters with me, Chris Mullins. And I know it's getting a bit late to do a top 10 for the year, but I'm getting in on the act finally, midway through January. And yeah, so this is going to be my 10 most anticipated games that will be arriving with me this year. So it may not necessarily be new games as such, it may be like the second wave on a single wave shipping. It might be that games have already arrived with some people in different regions that haven't arrived with me yet. So there are a few little caveats and things, but we'll cover those as we go on. But the first one, as you can see on the screen, is Freedom 5, a Sentinel Comics board game, which is one that is always sort of on the edge of my consciousness. To be honest, I still haven't even paid for my pledge yet because it's not an IP that I follow or have any allegiance to. It obviously looks very similar to Marvel in a lot of ways with superhero and everything, and obviously this guy looks a lot like Thanos. And I'm a big fan of Marvel, but that isn't why I backed it. To be honest, I mean the game looks fun, and also I'm hugely swayed by these minis. The minis in this look phenomenal, and I have, or I will be, pledging for the painted minis. I mean, the art style, the comic book style of everything in this game is gorgeous. I mean, there's some examples of the painted minis there, and I just cannot wait to get those to the table. They just look so much fun and have great presence. Probably going to make me want to actually learn how to paint, but I have no ability on that front whatsoever at the moment. So it terrifies me because I don't want to be practicing on minis and end up ruining them. But that is my number 10 for 2022. It's still slated to arrive in 2022, but it is one of a couple in here that is potentially at risk should there be any future delays. But on to number 9, one that I backed feels like ages ago, The Shivers, which initially when I bought it would have been much higher up because I think the idea of the game is amazing. The art style is gorgeous. I mean, the fact it's like this pop up rooms where you have these clue cards that go in there depending on what story and scenario you're doing that change up the position of the clues, and your players are all sort of searching through, having to explore the rooms, coming up with solutions to deal with various enemies and things. I love all that. The bit that has it drop down the list a little bit, I guess, is because the necessity for a DM basically in the game who tells the players whether their solutions work or give them guidance on how to progress through the scenario. And as the host and the owner, that will generally probably be me, and I have no experience in that front, and that absolutely terrifies me. So, whilst I am very excited for this game, I am also absolutely terrified. And yeah, just getting all that in the deluxe edition will be very, very exciting. And this next one, Return to Dark Tower, the first game, proper game that I ever backed. That really, when I put this list together, end of around Christmas time, this game was number 3. And to be honest, ever since I got into this hobby, this has been in my top 3. It was the first one, as I said, but the table presence is phenomenal. It just looks absolutely stunning and beyond anything that I could have imagined capable of a board game at the time. But it's the shipping issue. Unfortunately, it's an interesting thing, and because it's going to come up a few more times in this video, and I probably will do a talk about it in another video next week. But Return to Dark Tower and Restoration Games, and it's not a conspiracy or anything on their part, but as someone who is a UK based backer, at the time when I did this list, the status sheet said UK based game, 30th of December, leaving port. That date came and went. They'd never said it was, or maybe I didn't read the updates close enough. They did. It didn't seem to make it clear that that date was an estimate and that they hope to get a ship booked by that date, and then just it happened to fail. And basically now I'm recording this on the 14th of January. They still haven't booked the ship. And, it's getting a bit nerve-wracking as to whether they'll get one booked before Chinese New Year. Because if it falls the other side of Chinese New Year, as opposed to getting this in March, which is kind of what their update prior to Christmas suggested we would be getting. If it's after Chinese New Year, it might even be May, something like that, which when people across the water in the US are obviously getting their games, certainly the base games are out, the base games are hitting retailers, and I'm sure the bigger pledges will be arriving soon because they are, as far as I'm aware, at port in the US, so probably a month or so for those. It's a bit disheartening to see a game that you've backed being opened by people when you may have 3-4 months left to wait. But it still looks absolutely sublime. I cannot wait to get these minis. I cannot wait to play the game. But yeah, I can't pretend that my excitement hasn't waned. And the same goes for the next one, really. Townsfolk Tussle, which is a game, as soon as I saw it, I fell in love with it, wanted it desperately, backed it straight away. And again, was very, very, very excited for it coming. And similar to Return to Dark Tower, it's one that's already in the hands of many backers across the water in the US because there was a shipping error, not their fault at all. I can't remember who does it. Panic Roll, not their fault at all. It was an error on the shipping side of things where all the stock went to the US, and unfortunately then all the UK and EU stock then had to be freighted from the US to Europe and the UK. And it's still, I'm hoping I'll get this one within a month, hopefully. And yeah, I guess the fact that delay has again just hit my enthusiasm a bit. But yeah, still a fantastic looking game. Gameplay is going down very, very well. People seem to be loving this game, and I just think it's going to be phenomenal when it gets here. On to number 6, and we have got Primal the Awakening, which is probably another one like Freedom 5, which is possibly at risk of missing 2022 if they do have any further delays, because I know their latest timeline had shipping being September, and who knows what happens at the moment. But again, beautiful, gorgeous, substantial minis, and it's this sort of boss battler where this giant monster, as you see, sits in the middle of his arena, which has got all these terrains and everything that you can interact with and hide behind and jump off. And it's like this sort of puzzle where you're trying to use your skills to manipulate the monster and dodge its attacks, and then crafting gear from it, and just looks like a hugely exciting, deep, fun adventure that I just cannot wait for. Again, the art style I love. I'm just super, super excited for this one. And a lot of people I respect raved about the gameplay with the preview copy, so hopefully the full game will match up to those levels. On to number 5, and we have got Burn Cycle by Chip Theory Games, who I'm a big fan of. Obviously, if you've followed the channel, you'll know I did a big series on Too Many Bones already. I had a huge amount more Too Many Bones content for Christmas, so I'll be looking to try and get that to the channel again sometime soon, possibly before Unbreakable arrives. Anything by Chip Theory is going to have my interest, and again, Burn Cycle looks great. I love the art style. I love the theme. I just think it looks absolutely fantastic. But I just have the utmost faith in Chip Theory Games to produce a phenomenal game, and that is the main reason why Burn Cycle is so high for me, really, and that is the pedigree and the belief I have in the designers. Because, yeah, that's it, really. There's not much more to say. I think it's going to be a fantastic game, and I have the utmost confidence in it. On to number 4, Frostpunk the video game. Oh, Frostpunk, the board game, based off the video game, which I absolutely adored, which is why I'm so excited for this. It's going to be incredibly hard if the video game is anything to go by. It looks outstanding, similar to Return to Dark Tower. I mean, you've got a big tower in the middle of a board, and then you've got fantastic minis and everything going around it, so the table presence is going to be gorgeous. As long as it is able to capture the feeling of the gameplay of the video game and translate that to a board game, which isn't by no means a guarantee with these licensed games, as we've seen in the past. But from what people are saying who played it on Tabletop Simulator and played the preview copy, it sounds like they've absolutely nailed it. And it looks like it's going to do the game justice. And I really, really hope that it does, because it is a board game that I absolutely, or video game that I absolutely adored, and cannot wait to play it in a different format, basically. And at number 3, we have got Bard Sung by Steamforged Games, which is kind of the other side of the coin as to why Return to Dark Tower and Townsfolk Tussle dropped down the list because of the delays in the shipping and the fact that they're arriving in the hands of people over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm still sat here weeks, months away from receiving mine. Bard Sung actually, or Steamforged Games, the page hasn't loaded properly, so apologies for that. Steamforged Games had an update just the other day, hopefully that will load, where asking us to confirm our dwelling place, and I did a video on this last week, where they basically said it's going to be, or they hope it's going to be shipping before the end of the month for anyone who's not based in Asia who will be getting it before then. And that is such exciting news for me. I mean, this is a game that the fulfillment date on the campaign was May 2022, and with everything that's happened since this campaign was on, I was kind of expecting it to be September, October, November at the earliest. So to actually potentially get it not just on time but early is so excited, and it's seen it rocket from, I think this was 8th in my list when I started putting it together around Christmas. It's now shot up to number 3. And yeah, I guess it's just that psychology of shipping, which again is something I'll probably talk about in a future video. In at number 2, and we're jumping across to GameFound for the only GameFound entry on this list, and it's ISS Vanguard, which I've talked about at length in the past. I'm a huge Mass Effect fan, I'm a huge Awakened Realms fan, and this looks to me like Awakened Realms does Mass Effect. Obviously not exactly, because it's not focused on a core small team of characters that you have the interaction with. You can develop quite a sizable crew, but it just has that same sort of vibe and atmosphere. The art style is very evocative of Mass Effect, as most space games I guess will be, but also the fact that you're exploring different galaxies, you're planet jumping to explore and find resources and do story quests, and it just gives a lot of the same feels that, my fourth favorite video game of all time does, in terms of, I always count the trilogy as one. So anything that can give me that same feeling is going to be very, very high on my wish list, and I cannot wait for that. But going into the number 1, and it's another one from Awakened Realms, and it's kind of the game I was alluding to at the beginning, where I said this not necessarily going to be brand new games, because this obviously is a game where the first wave was out a year plus ago, and obviously it's the second wave that is due to come out around April. I had missed the initial campaign because I wasn't in the hobby at that point, so I had to jump on a pledge this time last year when they reopened the pledge manager, and I don't think this page is loaded up properly either. Let's see if it will do it this time. There we go. But it's a game that I fell in love with the moment I saw it. Jesse at Quackalake did an unboxing, and I think he was 6 minutes in before I had to pause it and go Googling to try and get a copy, because the art style, the theme, the miniatures, which admittedly I'm shallow. Generally, when I'm looking to buy a game, those are the 3 things that appeal to me the most. Because mechanic wise, I'm yet to really play a game that I haven't liked. So I'm not really that fussed on mechanics because I'm generally pretty confident I'm going to at least like the game, if not love it. But the whole concept and the art style and everything of this game is just absolutely sublime, in my opinion. It's so different, it's so unique. The whole concept of, exploring your dreams, so that because it's dreams, they're able to go completely out of the box in terms of the designs and the artworks. And it's just so different. I mean, the whole mask idea with each one having a different trait, which is going to impact your character and things. There's just so much going on, so much that I love. As often, again, if you follow the channel, you'll know I'm a massive fan of Awaken Realms, and many of my most anticipated and favourite games are by Awaken Realms, it seems. But that is my top 10. Comment down below for any that you feel I've missed or you really agree with and that you'd particularly like to see on the channel. I know they will all certainly be getting unboxings, but there are obviously in Aetherfields, ISS Vanguard, Bardsong, Burn Cycle to an extent, Freedom 5. There's 5 games there that have campaigns that I'm more than willing to play on the channel because it gives me an excuse to as much as anything. So if you want to see like a campaign playthrough of any of those games, let me know because I will more than happily put the work in to record as much of these 10 games as I possibly can because it's going to be a good 2022 from my board game collections perspective. Not from my wallets and not from the perspective of my postman, but other than that, it's going to be very, very good. So that's it for my top 10 most anticipated games of 2022. So thank you for watching. Look after yourself, stay safe, and have a good one. Bye-bye now.